Alright y'all, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to do two separate things at the same time. At least I'm going to be explaining two separate things. Thing one is I'm going to be sharing with you how to use heddles of different densities to do multiple heddle weaving. This is going to be applicable to what we're doing now, but also applicable to double weave and when we do the twills, the two shaft twills on two heddle. So pretty much the first thing you're going to do is you're going to decide how wide you want your piece to be, and you're going to count the holes to know exactly how many holes there are between the marked off areas. The next thing you're going to do is you want to find the center of your loom. It's a good idea if you haven't already, if you don't have like an Ashford or another type of loom that has that little mark on there. The little Ashfords have a dot, and that dot is the center. It's useful, and since it's your tool, to go ahead and mark your loom with a little tiny dot somewhere. It's so helpful, and it will save you having to keep looking every time to find the middle of your heddle. Because what you're going to do is you're going to count, and you want to be able to mark the heddle the same amount of slots in the next read, no matter what size it is. So I think I did like 24 slots between counting the mark slots, and so I wanted to make sure that I marked off 24 slots in all the other heddles. Does that make sense? You're not worrying about the width, you're just worrying about the amount of slots that are there. Alright, so now I'm going to double check. I am of the opinion, measure twice, cut once. It's better to check now than to wonder why your stuff is off centered when you're trying to slay the thing. You're like, wait, did I do something wrong? Wait, why isn't this not ending where I want it to end? What's happening? What's wrong? So go ahead and double check, triple check, make sure that you got everything marked where it's supposed to be, so that you can be confident going forward. So that this is a 10 dent heddle. I'm using a variable dent reed. No, the variable dent reed does not come with enough to be able to have that many. I have multiple variable dent reeds, and I'm swapping them between each other like Legos. All right, so I'm marking this last heddle. It's the 12 dent heddle, and that gives you the opportunity to use more than one thing. So you have the 12 dent heddle, and so maybe when you started off this course, you have the 8 dent heddle that came with your loom. Most looms come with an 8 dent heddle. Maybe you got the 10 dents for double weave, and you have the 12 dent that you were using at the beginning of this course. So you have 3 heddles. Maybe you haven't gone out and bought 3 heddles as yet for the 3 8 dent, which, may I add, you did not waste money if you did. Because it's easier to do it with 3 dents, 3 heddles of the same dent starting out, but I want to be able to give options to those who may not have gotten it as yet. So alright, so this is what next thing. Of course, you're going to need your spring clamps because we're doing this off the loom, because it's just easier to get between the heddles and do this off the loom. As I mentioned in the previous video, you could, and I will have to do when I do the update to this course, I will add this, but you could theoretically put your loom or have your heddles turned so that they're facing the right way, so you could do a direct warp and wrap onto the back of your loom so you wouldn't have to tie on the back. But I'm going to show you how to bring it to the loom and tie on. So now here we go. It's time to slay. I'm going to start out by putting in my floating salvage because I know I'm weaving twill, and I'm going to do that now as opposed to doing it later. Now I'm going to start threading the eye. So that first one is I'm threading shaft 1. Now I'm going to go through the slot and do shaft 2. Now I'm going to go to the next slot, and then I'm going to the hole of the second heddle for shaft 3. And now I'm going to go and do shaft the 4, which goes all the way through all of them. And now I'm going to do, I just did 3. I'm going to go and I'm going to do 2. And finally, I'm going to do 1. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2. That's what the pattern is. Now this, I have this sped up quite quickly because this was a super long video. It took me over an hour to thread the heddles and to do everything that I've condensed down to under 20 minutes. I made a mistake somewhere, and so I ended up pulling out my what I had already done, and I get out the book so I can make sure that I am doing it correctly. And I think it was in how everything was supposed to be spaced. The spacing for point twill as to who goes beside what threads are beside who, is a little bit different, and it's a little bit inconsistent as opposed to the spacing for doing straight draw. With straight draw, you have certain threads are going to be consistently beside each other in the slots. But with the twills, as you're changing, sometimes it's going to change as to which threads are behind which beside other threads. I say all that to say, I would again encourage you to do the straight draw first, because it's just a little bit more straightforward. Haha, no pun intended. But yeah, it's a little bit more clear to see what you're supposed to be doing. You're just doing the same repetitive 1, 2, 3, 4 over and over again, and after a while you can pretty much see if you've made a mistake visually. With point twill, the threads, you will begin to see the pattern of how the threads are spaced in the eyes between the heddles, because they look different. The way that they are spaced because of where they fall will look different in the heddles, in each of the different heddles. But it's one of those things that you may not catch it. And you know what? I say that if you make a mistake, it's no big deal. You know, you're learning, you're having fun. It's a learning experience. You'll be more careful next time if you don't like how the mistake turns out. But I know that some of you, are more wanting to do it right and make sure that you want to be intentional with your mistakes, and that's fine. If you're mistakes in quotes, doing the finger thing. So I say that if you get comfortable doing straight draw first, then you'll be more apt to be confident and have more success with the point twills, because you don't have that pivot, and you don't have the change of placement. But you're really it's really, once you understand, and if it's okay to look at the book for a little while. I mean, yeah, if this is not one of those things that I do a lot, and so whereas straight draw, I can pretty much, that one's, yeah, I like how point twill looks, but I like how straight draw, how simple it is to do on the heddles. It's like I don't need the book to know how I'm supposed to thread that. You give me 3 heddles and a rigid heddle loom, and I can thread the thing up for straight draw, and I can weave my favorite 3-1 twill without looking at the book. As it comes to point twills, that's one that I kind of need to be paying attention. And as you can see, I made a mistake. So I had to take it out. But you can see your mistakes so much easier when you do it like this, as opposed to if you were to follow the directions in some of the books that will tell you to do one heddle, then do the other heddle, then do the other heddle. I honestly don't understand. I can't even see how you would transpose a normal pattern and know where to put the different threads. All right, so I'm going to change colors to blue, and you'll see that when I finish up. So I'm going to change to blue. You see I've changed to blue, and I did do, because I like it, I think I did a little section of straight draw in the blue. This is such a short warp that I did not tie it. The warp is like, I think it's maybe just a little bit over a yard, because I just stretched it between two pegs on my table. So it's a relatively short warp. So what I'm doing is I'm pretty much going to be doing the exact same thing like what I did for the cricket. I'm going to take it to my loom, and I'm going to just tie it on. Again, I'm going to leave the little heddle, the little spring clamps attached to the heddles just to hold them up, because at this point I can't use the built-in shed blocks, because I don't have a space for 3 heddles. I only have a space for 2. So we're going to leave them on the spring clamps just to make it a little bit easier to manipulate. And again, I am going to use the lashing on method to attach the warp to my back beam. If you like to do the tying on, feel free, whichever one is the most comfortable for you. It's totally personal preference. I don't believe that you should be dogmatic about things where, it's not that big a deal. So just do whichever one makes you the happiest and you're most comfortable doing. So now I'm just measuring my yarn for doing the tying on. All right, so repetition deepens the impression, and so feel free to stop the video at this point. I'm just going to be tying it on, or if you want to see me to do it again, then just, it's only a little bit longer. But I'm just going to attach the warp to the back beam, and I am going to attach to the front beam, wind on, then we'll be good to go. I would suggest that when you are starting out, that you do a relatively narrow width and a short length warp, because you're learning, and it's one of those things that you don't want to have that pressure of feeling like you have to finish this massively long wide piece. This is not the first couple of tries. I would not tackle the patterns from hand woven, right? I would just maybe do the exercise that I show you at the beginning of this module, either on paper with graph paper, or maybe download Fiberworks and just the free one. You don't need to buy the thing just to be able to play with it, and just play with making some simple patterns that are easy, and then following those if you want to do that. But I'm just saying that you may just want to just do something that will give you a good win. You want a quick win. You want to make progress. You don't want to be overwhelmed, and you don't want to feel discouraged. So the best way that I've found is just to do short pieces when you're learning, and then as you get better, then you can make longer pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and wind this on, and it's pretty straightforward. You're going to wind on, using the method that you like. I like to use lots of paper between my layers, because it just makes you have less tension issues. Paper is cheap. Paper is cheaper than yarn, so I use lots of paper because I don't like to waste yarn. And you can always reuse paper. I really do. This is just a side note. I do love my samplet for this reason that the letter size paper, it fits perfectly, as well as what is it, 11 by 17 paper also fits perfectly on this loom. You can just use those papers, you can use cardstock, whatever, in those measurements, and you don't have to cut it. So that's another reason why I love my little samplet loom. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the one heddle at the back, and it is a little bit lower than the others. I think I may end up, I'm trying to find a way to make everybody fit. Yep, I figured I would. So I just decided just to go ahead and put the clip on that front one just so that everybody's at a relatively similar height. And so now we're just going to cut the loop. And I just said I'm not going to find the loop. I'm just going to cut off a little bit. And now it's time to join to the front. And I'm going to be doing the tying on again because that's the way I feel comfortable. And I know I repeat this a lot, but I find that it's important. I think that, you know, dogma, if it is useful anywhere, is useful in a religious setting, and I'm not even sure if it's necessarily useful to be too dogmatic about some things. You know, that's not necessarily helpful, but I don't think it's necessarily good to be dogmatic when it comes to creative things. You know, everybody has their way to do it, and yeah, there's some ways that may be better and may be more efficient, but that is only as it is efficient for you, you know? So if it doesn't work well for you, if you don't find that you're good at it, if you don't find that you enjoy doing a method, then do it the way that you enjoy. Nobody's judging you. Nobody knows what's happening in your house. It is your business. It's between you and the walls what you do. So do it in the way that works best for you. Alright, so I'm almost done with this. I'm pretty much just lashing on my bundles, and I am going to tighten everybody up, and then it's time to weave. So yes, I'm hoping that by seeing me do this, you know, a couple of times, that the more that you see it, you know, that this will build confidence in you that you can do this. This is not complicated. It is very straightforward. And that as you build your own personal belief, that you'll be able to try more things. And as you try more things, you'll gain success and you'll become more ambitious and confident and creative. Alrighty, y'all. That's it for this video. In the next video, I'm going to be showing you how I weave up this warp. I will see you in that next video. Bye.